Peace, love, liberty, radio.
And the walls come crashing down as the war at home reaches your town. You have no choice, it's safe and clean. We all submit to the war machine.
It's Friday, episode number 286. Just 14 episodes away from the launch of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio 4.0 with episode 300. I'm looking forward to it. And again, it's not going to be a major change. There's just going to be, a little bit different music beds and slight change of the format of the show. As far as the segments, there's actually going to be a fourth segment. The first, second, and third are each going to be shrunk down just a little bit, and then have a short segment at the very end of the show to where, I have like a couple of minutes to give a final thought sort of thing. And yes, I realize that, the entire show right now is just a stream of consciousness sort of thing to where I'll open up some news and start reading, and then I rant about various things. But, a lot of times I will wind up being mid-rant, and then I hear that music at the end of the show, and I'm like, oh no, I've got to wrap this up, and I've got 30 seconds. So the new format, it's going to give me like 2 minutes, and I'll be fully prepared of, okay, I now have 2 minutes, give the final thought sort of thing, give a pitch, a promo, whatever, and, hopefully you'll wind up liking the new format. Again, it's not a major change, and the show is still going to be 30 minutes long, but, some technical stuff on my end is changing as far as the way the show is going to be produced. Speaking of me jumping into the news and then ranting and telling you what I think about stuff, there's news from Ross Ulbrict. The Ulbrict family sent out an email, and if you are not on the email list for the Ross Ulbrict updates, you should probably do that. Go to freeross.org and sign up. So the email was sent out earlier today, and it reads, and of course they have the thing where it customizes. So it begins, Darryl, Ross's attorney, Joshua Draytell, filed an appeal brief on January 12th. It is a powerful document that not only fights for Ross, but for our rights and constitutional protections, including those of the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments. Of course, fair trials are essential to a free country, and we are all in peril if they are not upheld. And I'm going to pause here to say that I completely agree. And one of the tenets of, well, not really tenets of the Constitution because it's not embedded within, but one of the tenets of, I would say, English common law, which the American justice system is supposedly based on, is justice delayed is justice denied. So, in the Sixth Amendment, it specifically says, and I've got the language in front of me right now, Amendment 6, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. Speedy and public trial. Words in the Constitution. Again, and it's based on the concept of justice delayed is justice denied. So, for instance, there's people that talk about the stuff of, can you defend your property many years after it was stolen? So if somebody comes and they break into your house and they steal your television set, can you lay in wait for 10 years before, invoking some sort of punishment against the person that steals your television? And I would say that based on the justice delayed is justice denied sort of thing, at some point it just becomes vengeance and cannot in any meaningful way be considered to be defensive force or, I'm just responding to what they did. No, at some point it becomes you are initiating force. And I only mention that because in this case, Ross was in jail for a really long time before he went to trial, and it's been nearly a year since he was convicted. And, well, now they're saying that it could be a little while longer before he might possibly even go back in front of the judge. The email from the Ulbrict family continues. It says, the brief is very thorough. It's twice as long as an average brief, and the lawyers could have included more, but were constrained by space requirements. You can read it here, and they post a link. You can read the overview here, and they post a link to that as well. And they say there is more information about Ross, the case, and the appeal at freeross.org. The next step is that the government responds to the brief. We're told this can take as long as 3 months. After that, the defense has an opportunity to rebut. The next step is that, I'm rereading the same paragraph there, but basically it could be 3 months or more before the defense responds to whatever the state winds up putting out, and then it's going to be even longer before it goes to the judge. They continue. We can't imagine the court denying these arguments, but of course we could not have imagined that a judge would sentence a nonviolent first offender to double life in prison either. However, we are hopeful that the appellate court will agree that the trial was not fair and that the sentence is draconian, and that Ross and we will be granted relief. We will keep you up to date as things unfold. Knowing you're out there helps us keep going. Thank you. Onward, the Ulbrict family. And I wanted to mention this, and I'm very glad that the Ulbrict family sent an email out today, because it allows me to talk about one of the corrupt Silk Road agents. And actually, the agent was not from the Silk Road. It was one of the agents involved in the investigation of the Silk Road investigation. Well, he apparently has been re-arrested for attempting to flee the country. This time, the story comes from Wired from just a couple of days ago. And it reads, just when the Silk Road saga of dirty money and double dealing seemed to be winding down, one of the federal agents who investigated the site has added an audacious footnote, what looks like a brazen attempt to flee the United States, after he was convicted and sentenced to prison for corruption in his handling of the case. Former Secret Service agent Sean Bridges was re-arrested on Thursday of last week, and the story here is dated February 1st. So about a week ago, possibly 2 weeks ago, is when he was arrested. He was arrested the day before he was scheduled to turn himself in at a Baltimore prison to begin serving a 71-month prison sentence. Bridges pled guilty in October to charges of money laundering and obstruction of justice and was released on bail. He confessed that as part of the team investigating the Silk Road drug market, he had secretly stolen around $800,000 worth of Bitcoin from the site and placed them in his own account. Federal agents seized hundreds of thousands of dollars in his possession, and he was sentenced to pay another $500,000 in restitution. There's more from this story, and boy, oh boy, you better believe I'll get into it. So stay tuned. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
Hey, this is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've been working with computer programmer Derek Slopey to create Fiend Phone. I'm using Fiend Phone right now to talk with and record one of my co-hosts in real time. Take it, Davi.
Hey, this is Davi Barker, and I'm 1,000 miles away from Michael, but we sound like we're in the same room.
We sure do, Davi. So, Davi, please tell the nice people more about Fiend Phone.
PhonePhone is free, open-source software that opens up a global world of possibilities for collaborative, high-quality remote voice media production, and I'm digging it.
People can try the Windows beta version of PhonePhone right now at PhonePhone.com. But we're also raising money to vastly improve PhonePhone and vastly improve independent talk media worldwide.
So go to PhonePhone.com to help out. Who will build the audio roads? We will, with your help.
That's PhonePhone.com. FEENPHONE.com. Foxtrot, Echo, Echo, November, phone.com.
PhonePhone. I never knew remote audio could be this good.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
So before I jump back into the article here from Wired.com about the dirty investigator from the Secret Service who is involved in the Silk Road investigation, I want to make sure that I tell you about something coming up Sunday. This Sunday, February 7th. It is my birthday, my 38th birthday, and also, on top of that, I'm having a fundraiser for my presidential campaign. And because it is my 38th birthday, I'm asking that people, when they donate things in, increments of 38 something. So, doesn't have to be 38 Bitcoin. That would be amazing if it was. Doesn't even have to be $380 or $38 for that matter, or $3.80. It could be, I'm asking just for increments of something with 38 in it. So 0.38 Bitcoin, 0.038 Bitcoin, 3.8 Bitcoin would be great. 38 Bitcoin would be amazing. 380 Bitcoin would be super duper wonderfully amazing. I can't even, think of a word to describe it, and all of that was one long hyphenated word, including this amazingly wonderful. So you can go to darrellwperry.com/donate. And if you're planning to donate when you hear this, wait until Sunday. Wait, about 48 more hours and then donate on Sunday. But if you have a bad short-term memory like I sometimes do, then, add it into your calendar on your phone. That is something that I've started doing, is adding things not to the calendar, but to a task organizer that I downloaded called Wunderlist. And I will definitely get back into the article from Wired on the Silk Road investigation, or rather the Secret Service investigator that was involved in the Silk Road investigation getting rearrested. But again, stream of consciousness. This is how the show happened. So if you've been listening to the show, you know that a few weeks ago I was talking about how I listened to an episode of the School Sucks podcast. Brett and I forget who it was, Nathan Frazier, I believe, they were discussing the School Sucks Productivity Month, #SSP Productivity Month. And they were talking about various ways to get organized, various task managers, and they were talking about using Evernote and a couple of other things. And I had tried using Evernote. I wasn't really happy with the way that it wound up working. And so I goofed around online, when I say goofed around, I would, like Google search and, task organizer, cross-platform, easy to use, enter. And came across something called Wunderlist, and it's absolutely amazing. And so I'm actually going to pull this up on my phone right now and tell you the things that I see on my Wunderlist. So off to the side, it has Inbox, it has Start, it has This Week, and that will show you tasks that you have given yourself to do this week. On mine, task number 1, due tomorrow, finish making 6-month and 1-year goals. On Sunday is promote the fundraiser again. And then next Wednesday, I've got something scheduled. And those are just things where I've put the due date. And then there are other things that I need to do that I know that I need to do that I don't have in the task manager. One of those is create a list of bills that are going to have committee hearings in the upcoming week. I'll be able to do that today once the calendar for the New Hampshire State House comes out. And so then I'll make a list of here's all the bills that I want to go sign either in favor or against. And then when I go to the State House on there's nothing on Tuesday, but I will definitely be going next Friday. So I'll have a list of sign in favor of this, sign against this, etc., etc. So the whole point of that was if you have a bad short-term memory, then download a task manager. I would recommend Wunderlist because that's the one that I'm using, but there are others. There's Trello, there's Evernote, there's several others that I don't remember the name of because I'm not trying to remember the names of because I don't use them. But nonetheless, download a task manager, and it will definitely help keep your thoughts in somewhat an organized manner if you actually wind up using the task manager. Workflowy is another one that just came to mind, but from my understanding, the mobile app integration, it's not that great on the mobile app. But nonetheless, I digress and continue with the article. So, despite the guilty plea by Sean Bridges in October of last year, and despite him being scheduled to have turned himself in to prison officials a couple of weeks ago, he attempted to flee the country, potentially taking more hidden wealth with him. You may recall that he had stolen around $800,000 worth of Bitcoin. Federal agents seized hundreds of thousands of dollars that were in his possession, and he was sentenced to pay another $500,000 in restitution. But he attempted to leave the country, and they think he was trying to take some hidden wealth with him, but they don't really know. According to a filing from prosecutors in the Northern District of California last week, and again, this is from about a week ago, so the filing was from 2 weeks ago, roughly. The agents who arrested Bridges found that he'd packed his passport, a cell phone, documents related to his wife's application for citizenship in another country, and corporate records for at least 3 offshore entities in Belize, Nevis, and Mauritius, including one that had been created after his guilty plea. That was all found in 2 briefcases. They also found a MacBook with its serial number scratched off, bulletproof vest, at least one of which prosecutors believe Bridges stole from the Secret Service. Exactly what that collection of evidence adds up to is not yet clear, but prosecutors argue that it shows that Bridges did not plan to report to prison as promised. The prosecutor's filing notes, quote, "It should be noted that this was not the sum of evidence this was not the sum of evidence agents recovered. Rather, the government is only including facts here that it believes are relevant to the defendant's risk of flight." The arrest, which was first noted in the Baltimore Sun, comes as the corruption of the Silk Road investigation receives new scrutiny. Last month, the defense team for Ross Ulbricht, the convicted creator and administrator of the anonymous market, filed a lengthy appeal brief. Its arguments focused in part on the 2 corrupt agents who had been part of the Silk Road investigation, Sean Bridges and DEA agent Carl Mark Force, who was also convicted of selling information to Ulbricht and attempting to extort money from him. While the defense had been told of the sealed charges against Force and ordered to keep them under wraps for fear of upsetting the ongoing corruption investigation, Ulbricht's attorneys wrote that they were never told of the accusations against Bridges until Ulbricht had already been convicted. After the charges against him were unsealed, Bridges confessed to using the account of an arrested Silk Road administrator, Curtis Clark Green, to secretly steal hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin from the site. At the time, Ulbricht allegedly believed Green had stolen the money and paid Force, an undercover agent posing as a drug dealer on the Silk Road, to have him murdered. It should be noted that Ulbricht was talked into doing that, or might not have even been Ross Ulbricht, may have been someone else using the name Dread Pirate Robert, and I'll tell you more about that when we come back.
Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs, with a story like no other game before. A liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to zog.ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, zog.ninja, code FPP.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
So before I tell you what I mean about it may not have been Ross Ulbricht that was talking to the undercover federal agent who was posing as Curtis Clark Green, I want to make sure that I tell you about Liberty.me. Liberty.me is more than just a social network. Of course, it is, a social network. You can share pictures of your cat if you want to. You can post funny pictures. You can, post memes. You can share links to news stories. You can post whatever. So there's definitely the social networking aspect. But there is so much more tied into your Liberty.me account. There's a WordPress blog that you can connect to your account. There are free ebooks that you can download. There's audio content. There's chat rooms. There's forums. There's groups. There's just so much there. But one thing you will not find at Liberty.me is internet trolls. So you will not find the people that just want to cause trouble for the sake of causing trouble because that's what they do on Facebook. And the reason you don't find that on Liberty.me is because Liberty.me is a paid service. And you can save 10% off of your membership to Liberty.me by using referral code FPP Radio. So go now, sign up, Liberty.me, referral code FPP Radio, and save 10%. Back now to the story from Wired. But before I actually get back into the story, I want to make sure that I tell you what I meant about it might not have been Ross Ulbricht. The person that allegedly, agreed to do a murder for hire might not have been Ross Ulbricht. It may have been someone else using the name Dread Pirate Roberts. And I'm not saying that it was somebody had hacked into Ross's computer and was posing as Ross. The defense all along has maintained that, yes, Ross Ulbricht created the website Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht got arrested when the Silk Road site was taken down. They don't deny those two facts, but what they do deny is that Ross Ulbricht, for the duration of the operation, was the Dread Pirate Roberts. And in fact, federal investigators testified during Ross's trial that they believed for a period of time that Mark Karpeles was the Dread Pirate Roberts. Mark Karpeles was the guy who he's known mostly for having headed up Mt. Gox, which was the Magic the Gathering online exchange that became the largest, at one time, the largest exchange for buying Bitcoin. Mark Karpeles was believed to have been Dread Pirate Roberts. And there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that points to, maybe he was. So it's possible that Karpeles or even someone else was the Dread Pirate Roberts that agreed, after being talked into it by the federal agent, agreed to a murder for hire. And there's also stories and documentation where some people that were like admins for the Silk Road. Well, one of the admins, I think, was actually interviewed by Wired, and he said that the person that was Dread Pirate Roberts at the time that he was being interviewed was not the same person that started the site. And there are other stories like that. And there was actually one of the people that was Dread Pirate Roberts that I forget who they were interviewed by, but they talked about how they got the site from the first Dread Pirate Roberts. So it is very possible that Ross Ulbricht did not run the site for the vast majority of the time that Silk Road was a site. But I digress, and I return to the evidence, or to the article, where they say that the DEA, after having talked Dread Pirate Roberts into a murder for hire, the DEA faked Green's death, sending DPR spoofed photos of the body. And I did change the wording here from what it says in the article. They say that they sent Ulbricht photos, but again, we don't know if they were actually talking to Ulbricht or someone else using the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts. Green, that was Curtis Clark Green, the person who had been arrested and then a federal agent posed as him. Green was released on bail and then sentenced to time served just recently for his part in the Silk Road conspiracy. They got him on charges of conspiracy to deal drugs. Bridges received less clemency from the judge in his case, and if it's found out that he attempted to escape his sentence, his new one will no doubt be harsher. And then they do have a link in here to where you can actually read the 4-page document against Sean Bridges from, this is dated January 28th. So this is right at 2 weeks, today is the 5th, so right at a week ago. So this is not as old as I thought. Sometimes when, something's dated and it says last week and you know that it's from about a week ago, not sure if it's, still a week or if it's been 2 or 3 weeks now. But anyway, I will post the link to this in the show notes, as well as the link to the email blast that was sent out by the Ulbricht family. Now, let me jump into something that is really interesting and not getting the news coverage that I thought that it would be, or at least if it is, it's not something that I'm seeing come up in news feeds of people that I interact with on social media. And the headline here, United States exonerated record number of convictions in 2015, mostly minorities. A record number of people were exonerated of crimes in the United States in 2015, many of them involving minorities, and convictions considered difficult to acquit. The National Registry of Exonerations reports that there were 149 known exonerations last year, breaking the record of 139 set in 2014. Most of the people who were exonerated last year served an average of 14 and a half years in prison. Let that number sink in for you for a second. Just like let it stew in your brain momentarily. 149 people were exonerated from prison last year, meaning they had been convicted. They had served some time in prison, and then it was later discovered, all of the evidence that we had was bunk. Or enough of the evidence was bunk to where there's now, reasonable doubt that you did not do this. And of those 149 people, most served an average of 14 and a half years, meaning that you have people who have lost decades of their life for crimes they did not commit. Overall, in 2015, 58 defendants were exonerated from homicide cases. More than 2/3 of the convicts were minority, half were black. 5 people who had been sentenced to death were exonerated last year. And there's a lot more in this article. It will be in the show notes. Don't forget, on Sunday, go to darrellwperry.com/donate. Donate to the campaign. Help me spread the ideas of liberty. And, of course, I answer your questions on Wednesday, AMA at fppradio.com.